Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar today. My name is Brian Van Hook. I'm going to go ahead and give it a minute while everybody streams in. We'd like to welcome you to this webinar that's focused on starting up a successful food truck. So while you're coming in, would encourage you put in the chat, put in where you're from, put in kind of who you are. If you have a food truck already, if you're looking to start a food truck, we want to make this interactive with you. So definitely feel free to post some information in the chat. I'll give it another minute before we start. Okay. Okay, I think we'll get started. We'd like to welcome you on behalf of the SBDC at FIU and the SBA BizGap program. We'd like to welcome you to this webinar that's focused on what you need to know to get your food truck rolling. As I mentioned, my name is Brian Van Hook. I'm the Regional Director of the Florida Small Business Development Center at FIU's College of Business. The presentation is going to run approximately 40 minutes or so. I will save some time for some questions. And also, we did put a lot of really good links and information in the presentation so that you can follow up afterwards. If you are attending today's webinar, we will send you a PDF of the presentation so that you can have it and kind of look at it on your own time. In terms of my quick background, already mentioned I'm with the Florida SBDC at FIU. I've been with the center for 10 years. Prior to that, I worked for 10 years in Washington, D.C., both in the United States Senate and the Department of Commerce. Have about 20 years working on economic development and small business issues. And also important to the topic today, I'm a big, huge advocate for food trucks, big supporter of local food trucks. Actually, I live in kind of the Westchester part of Miami, have a lot of very active food trucks in our neighborhood, in our area, and also have a big food truck meetup once a week at Tropical Park, which is down the street from where I live. So definitely, I'm happy to incorporate a lot of the lessons learned and a lot of the information into this particular presentation. Just quick about the Florida SBDC at FIU. We're an SBA resource partner. We focus on one-on-one business consulting and trainings to businesses in Miami-Dade and Monroe County. We're heavily focused on providing impact and outcomes for the clients in our region. This particular webinar is sponsored under the SBA BizGap program. BizGap is the Business Growth and Acceleration Program. This is a program that our center has run in Miami-Dade County since 2016. It's focused on providing hyper-local consulting, training, and outreach to businesses in targeted communities and commercial corridors. We want to meet businesses where they are in the community, whether that's in webinars like today, whether that's in resource fairs in the community, whether that's canvassing door to door, in-person workshops, attending chamber meetings. And we also want to be another tool in the toolkit for communities that are looking to better assist their local businesses, either to start or to grow. And here in Miami-Dade County, we have done a lot of work on BizGap, as we mentioned, since 2016. We've contacted over 300 businesses during different canvassing rounds. We've had 184 attendees from community trainings. We've consulted 133 businesses, and we've had some of the great impacts that we noted up there. And then this particular project is funded by a grant from the SBA. It's focused on Florida's 27th Congressional District. For that particular project, the Florida's 27th Congressional District runs from downtown Miami, Little Havana, down to Coral Gables, over to Key Biscayne, to Westchester, a little bit of Kendall, all the way down to Palmetto Bay and Cutler Bay. And we've been working on this project this year. It ends in December of 2024. And our project is focused on consulting and training over 1,000 businesses in the district this year. That's through business consulting and trainings and webinars like we're doing today. We're doing the one-on-one business consulting and also data mapping and surveys of the businesses that are based in District 27. So thank you for helping us to support this project. Would say big shout out to our seven BizGap consultants, all experts in different areas. And they've just done a really great job on the project this year. And then we do have a wider team of consultants under Florida SBDC at FIU, both in Miami-Dade County and also in the Florida Keys. So now that I gave you kind of the background, the backstory, let's get into the presentation. This workshop is for entrepreneurs who are looking to start up or grow a new food truck business. We're going to cover business planning. We're going to cover market research, financing. We're going to talk about the type of food trucks. We're going to talk about buying a used food truck versus getting a new food truck, commissaries, and then just additional resources for you to keep in mind as you're looking to get into the food truck business. So, I know it's very daunting starting a new business. You kind of don't know where to start. So do want to just kind of bring it back that entrepreneurship is setting up a business or businesses and taking on financial risks in the hope of profit. So an entrepreneur by definition is a risk taker. So our presentation today is really focused on helping you to take that risk with a food truck, but to make it more of a calculated risk because you're going to have your time, your efforts, and also your finances tied up with this business. So we want you to make the best decisions that you can. So, why should you get into owning a food truck? There's a lot of pros and some cons to the food trucks. One of the pros is that there is lower overhead cost for a food truck versus a brick and mortar restaurant. Your truck can go anywhere that customers are in the community. You're not tied to a fixed location. And it does require some startup capital, but then as we noted, basically there's lower startup costs versus like a traditional restaurant. So really, you have some more flexibility. You can kind of like customize some of the different options for the budget or for the type of truck you're looking to do. Some of the cons for it, just like anything in life, it is labor intensive. So when you're starting your own business, whether it's a food truck or another type of business, it's a full-time job basically. So you're gonna have full-time plus hours. It's nights, it's weekends. You're gonna have time that's going to be pulled away from other things. So you really need to factor in and put the time in because if it's worth it, you need to put the time in that's required to make it successful. We are here in South Florida, so that your sales are subject to South Florida weather. I know that the last like 3 to 4 weeks, it's been really windy, really rainy. That does put a damper, pun intended, on outdoor food trucks. People are less likely to go because of rain, even if you have like a little overhang on it, or if you have like seating with umbrellas and things like that, it probably would impact your sales with the weather. So you do need to be aware of seasonality and also the weather. Food trucks are perceived as fast and affordable, so you definitely need to deliver on that. You need to have a good system, you need to be efficient, a good workflow, and also be able to provide affordable prices to the customers. And then it is really tough to build your niche if you don't research different food truck types and offerings, because you don't want to offer something that somebody's already doing really well. It's going to cut into your business for your food truck. So that's just some of the pros and cons about food trucks. So kind of starting from the beginning, when you're starting up a business, there are 4 different aspects to it. Basically having that idea, doing the planning, securing the financing, and then successfully launching the business. Like I keep saying, you do want to conduct proper planning to lay that really strong foundation. Key actions under the planning side is understanding your market, developing a business model, and then creating a business plan. So the market is basically customers with unsatisfied needs, um, who have the resources and the willingness to buy from you. So it's kind of like problem and solution. Like there's a problem and you're providing the solution. So you want to basically set out to address the needs in the market. You want to offer top quality products, and you want to offer great service at a fair price. And one of the advantages of being a small business is that you can be very nimble and you can get to know the market and quickly adapt what you're doing to the market needs, especially with a food truck where you have some more options you can customize, different things that are more flexible and things that you can like modify up because you can take the truck and go somewhere where the customers are. One of the things we always stress in terms of starting a new business is that you can get direct experience in a market by working with an existing business or by networking with peers in the industry. We really did encourage you later on in the presentation to go visit food trucks in your area, get involved in some of the food truck meetups, get involved on some of the social media pages. Go really like talk to food truck owners that have already been successful, have already had a lot of the pressure points and really get some of the experience and advice from them to help you be successful when you're starting out. And then you can also get information on a market via market research, industry research as well. You can do industry market research in person with consumers by you and your team. You can even go to some of the meetups and talk to customers that are already shopping with other food trucks and get some feedback from them. There is information you can get from the Census Bureau, the Federal Reserve, the Department of Labor. There's some information on the SBA's website that we did include the link in the presentation. Specific to food trucks, like I said, you can attend local food truck meetups. You can attend farmers markets. There traditionally are food trucks at some of the farmers markets. You can conduct research on popular foods that are in our area, or you can actually do some research on what's popular, what's not in our area. What is something that's not here that you're seeing? Also, you can go to other cities who have like vibrant food truck scenes. California has good food truck scenes, Texas, Georgia. So there are other areas. It's something where you can go like on just a regular vacation and then you can just check out what food trucks are doing there. How are they set up? What are the food offerings? Those type of things. I did include some additional websites you can research. Miami Food Truck Events, Miami Food Trucks, Roaming Hunger, which is all around the country, but they do have a specific page for Miami. So you can check it out. And then in terms of understanding the market, there are different types of food trucks. So you need to factor that into your decision making. It also will influence what type of truck you're going to get, what type of features you have on the truck, or whether maybe you don't need a truck for what you're going to do. Maybe you just need a trailer, or like a little mobile pizza oven or something like that. There's fast food trucks, which is kind of everybody knows about hamburgers, those type of things. There's gourmet food trucks, healthy foods, ones that focus only on like ice cream or desserts, barbecue food trucks, comfort food like macaroni, and stuff that only specializes in like breakfast food trucks. So there are different types of food trucks. It's not one size fits all. There's different types. And like I said, different types of food that you're offering basically would determine what type of food truck you're getting because you would want to like basically fit out the truck towards the type of food that you're going to serve. And then when you're understanding the market, you do want to look at what's the potential demand, what's the market size, who are your competitors, what's the location, and then what's the pricing. So what are competitors pricing in terms of their menu? You want to factor that in. You definitely want to work back from the ingredients and what your costs are and factor that into what your pricing is so that you're doing like proper pricing. You're not like under pricing and you're losing money, or you're not overpricing and maybe losing out on customers that you would get if the price was a little lower. There are two elements of any business model that you do want to factor in. A value proposition is kind of like your statement on what unique value your company brings to the market. Some of the questions you can ask for the value proposition is, what do you offer to the customer? What needs are you satisfying? How are you different from the competition? There's also the go-to-market strategy, which is your roadmap, basically to get your product or service to the customers. It differs from your marketing strategy, as it's going to cover like those tactics that you want to achieve your value proposition and set yourself apart from the competition. The go-to-market should be consistent with your marketing strategy. You want to focus on defining that target market, identify who your customer is, maybe even build in some personas or some profiles of particular customers, in terms of age ranges, in terms of different types of folks that you're trying to reach, like moms, college kids, those type of things. And then also outline your pricing models. We did include up there additional information on business models, on the value proposition, on go-to-market strategies. So you can look at that on in your own time. And then business planning 101. I know this is the part of the presentation where everybody's eyes glaze over because they're like, I don't want to write a huge business plan. But you do need to look at it in terms of your business. That a business plan is going to be important if you're looking to get any type of financing. Also, if you're going to be talking to bankers or investors, you do want that type of thing. But I would just really stress, don't let the idea of drafting that business plan delay your opportunity to move forward on this business opportunity because you can basically get to work on it in different ways to move forward. One of the ways that you can do it is to have a business model canvas. A business model canvas is not a 30-page business plan that you got to write and get research and do details. A business model canvas is basically like a one-page document. Really would mention though, it doesn't replace a business plan, but it can help you to get your ideas on paper that you can kind of move it forward. And I did include some links in there for business model Canvas templates, different information on how to use it. So you can do it. But like I said, it's a one-page document that you can basically start populating, and then you can kind of fill it in with additional details. And then you need to have a business plan that you can basically tailor to different audiences. You're going to have similar effort elements to like a large company like Coca-Cola or Pepsi, but you don't need to have it be as complex as that. You really do want to do an executive summary to catch your reader's interest and draw in potential partners or bankers or investors, but usually you do that executive summary last. You fill in all the other information first. And I did include some additional business planning links in there so that you can look at. And then getting into the financing aspect. So before your food truck hits the road, before you're like open for business, you're going to have bills that you have to pay. So one of the first steps is to calculate your startup expenses. In this case, you won't have bricks and mortar. You basically would have your food truck and other expenses, but you do want to factor in those expenses into your calculations. Specific to food trucks, the biggest expense you're going to have is your food truck, whether that's new or used. So I will get into that in a little more detail, just to give you background on like what's the pros and cons of those. Also, commissary fees is something you need to factor in. We will go into detail that towards the end of the presentation, but you're also going to have equipment, food and ingredients, utensils, serving plates, any signage that you have, all the licenses and permits that you need to get, and then insurance, and then salaries as well. So those are some of the common expenses for a food truck. So you want to basically break up the expenses into what they cost. Are they one-time expenses, maybe like buying your food truck or buying equipment? Is it monthly expenses? You want to calculate 1 year, but if you can go out to 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, that's even better because it's going to help you in terms of like mapping out what success looks like for the business. So I don't want to leave you empty-handed. So I did include up there a PDF spreadsheet that's from the SBA that you can fill in that has basically good template for startup expenses and how to calculate. So now that you've got through your startup expenses, you're going to want to look at how do you fund it. For most businesses, basically bootstrapping is the best way to do it. Bootstrapping is where you're kind of covering it out of your funding. The reason that you do that is because you retain ownership of the business and you control the direction of the business. But as with this, you're going to assume all the risk. It could impact your personal finances and it could delay your retirement if you're not careful. So you'd really need to like do a lot of the work on the front end to make sure that this is going to be a good idea for you and your finances and kind of what your plan is for the rest of your life. Other financing options include the friends, family, or fools aspect, mission-based lenders. We have a number of really great mission-based lenders and CDFIs here in Miami. Government agencies such as the SBA do offer financing. SBA loans usually come through a bank that is guaranteed by the SBA. There's crowdfunding, there's angel investors, there's venture capital. So there's a number of routes that you can go to get funding for the business. And then specific to food trucks, The biggest startup expense you're going to have is buying your food truck. So there are pros and cons of each type of truck. Food trucks are, when you're buying used, they're usually lower in cost. It's anywhere between 40 to $70,000. Buying used can give you time to learn the operations, like how to run a food truck, and kind of figure out the equipment that you need to like really be successful with the business. There are multiple sites for with food trucks for sale. I'm not going to outline them here because I don't want to like highlight one site over another. There's a lot of different ones that you can look at. It's good to shop around and really talk to successful food truck owners, like where did they buy their truck? Did they get it new? Did they get it used? What was the site that they used? Was it a good seller? Was it a good site? Did they get a good price for the truck? I've seen other presentations on food trucks where they do really stress in terms of having buying a truck if you're based in Florida, buying a truck from Florida, not buying a truck from another state. That could cause you issues. I know California, it's a real big issue there because there are like a lot of specific stuff regarding like insignias and different things on the truck. So I would encourage you, if you're based in Florida or Miami, to basically buy a truck that's based here in Florida. Don't go out of state to get the truck. And then if you're buying a new truck, that is a higher investment. It could be anywhere between 90 grand to 150 grand. If you are a knowledgeable operator and you know what specs and features you want, there's definitely a solid choice to go. You can really customize the truck and build it for what you need to do. In that case, you're going to make less mistakes because you already are pretty seasoned and you know what you want. Also, having a new food truck, it does tend to attract more customers because it's a big shiny thing. You can customize it with like different signage on it, with lights, with other things, with features like the fold out where you can kind of put like a little thing out on it. Um, and also could save you prep hours if you're setting it up easier where you can just basically like grab and go and get the truck moving. Also would mention that if you like you really want to map out what type of food and like food and drink and beverage that you're going to offer, because you might not need a newer used food truck. You might be able to go smaller. So just think about how, like baseball games or football games, there's folks that have, like a hot dog stand. It's basically a trailer they can tow with their truck. You could have a mobile wood-fired pizza trailer that you just basically come in and you just pop you have all the ingredients, you have the prep, and then you just pop things into like a wood-fired oven. There's like concession trailers, dessert trailers if you're just doing ice cream or like cotton candy or something. And then for a lot of us that do a lot of like barbecuing, you can get like a more fancy barbecue cooker or smoker you can tow behind your truck. You can basically set it up where you're going to have like kind of like a prep station, something to store the different ingredients and different things. And then basically like your cook side, whether it's a grill or a smoker, you can kind of set it up in that way. Like we noted up there, you can basically tow it with your vehicles at different locations. So that way you don't have to buy like a huge food truck to do it. Most of the food trucks that you're going to see, they're not smoking something in the food truck. Most of the time, they're basically cooking something on a grill or in a fryer. They're not really like doing a cooker or smoker on that. So that's basically where, you could save a lot of money if you're starting. And maybe if you're doing this, maybe you can make a lot of money with like a trailer or like a little stand, and then you could work your way up to a food truck. So it is a way to like work smarter, not harder. And then whether one of the key things for a food truck is that you do need a commissary. And that actually is required here in the state of Florida. You need to have a letter of partnership with a commissary. So it could be like a commercial kitchen, an incubator, or it could be some other name for like a food truck commissary. But it's basically where you're going to do a lot of the back office stuff, a lot of the back maintenance on the truck when you're not serving customers. Like I mentioned, in general, it's a parking spot for your truck. You have water and propane refills, electricity hookup to recharge your vehicle, and then gray water disposal. So basically, again, what the food truck commissaries do is it helps you to prepare and store your food in a proper and safe way. It gives you a fixed location to ship and store your ingredients. Gives you a place to store the truck and your cooking equipment and to clean and maintain them. So just think about like washing your truck, like cleaning the tires, cleaning your equipment after you go to a big event. Also, like I said, they will having a commissary that you're putting your truck at will help you to attain that commissary letter of agreement, which is required by the state of Florida. Some commissaries also provide other support, like including marketing, administrative, having a network of community of other food truck owners or other food entrepreneurs that are there. It is a way for you to build up that knowledge base and those connections. For commissaries, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to look for locations that have prep space. I did put a star on that. That's very important because you want to do a lot of your prep work before you get in the truck. The truck is a lot smaller. You're not going to be able to do all that work. Basically, what you're going to want to do is have the prep work done ahead of time and basically be able to just like grill or kind of like, prepare the food in the truck, not do all the cutting and dicing and things like that. It offers you garbage disposal, grease disposal, gray water disposal, potable water, electricity and propane. It's again where you can park your truck and wash your truck, ice and storage. So additionally, for commissaries, you're going to want to factor in how far is it from the mechanic for your truck? Does it have propane access? I mentioned that a couple of times. Is it close to the locations you're going to? Is it far away? So you're going to basically have to go down to go up. Or is it kind of near on the way to where you're going to these events? Is it a heavy traffic area? So if you're dropping off the food truck, or if you're basically coming out, are you going to get stuck in traffic that you're going to have to factor in to your travel time? Any amenities that they have, and then also just fundamentally, is it a clean place? Is it clean? Is it well maintained? Is it kept up? Those are all things to factor in about commissaries. And just like I mentioned in some of the other slides, to identify a good commissary, you're going to want to meet with food truck owners and get involved in some of those online and in-person communities, really to get some good advice from them. Where is their truck parked? How does it work? What are the fees? Those type of things. You want to look, there are different types of locations. Some are like a shared kitchen, some are a catering kitchen, some of them are restaurant kitchens. So you want to look at those type of things. You can also check with the state of Florida. We'll get into some of those, but the Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulation, the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, they do have some lists of different commercial kitchens, of commissaries. So those are things that you can research and cross-reference versus like what you're finding, like doing research. The final step, and we spent a lot more time talking about this, guys, is to incorporate and launch your business. There are three major forms of business ownership, like a sole proprietorship, a partnership, and a corporation. I'm not going to get into like which is better, which is worse, because it does depend on like the product or service in the industry. Some have different advantages. Some are that you want to factor in is like personal liability, how much taxes you pay, what paperwork is required to file with the federal and state government. You should definitely consult your attorney and your accountant for any guidance they can give you on starting your food truck and how you should set it up. But I did provide in the presentation a chart from the SBA that covers like general traits of each business structure and like what you should factor in. So I did include that link here in the presentation. When you're ready to get started, you should go search on Sunbiz in terms of if your business name is already available, if somebody already has it. Obviously, you can do, your Sunbiz registration. You can do doing a DBA. So there are a couple of ways you can do it, where you can just put, food truck 101 as the business name, and then the DBA is, best hot dogs ever, or something like that. So you could do it a couple different ways. Just have your registration and then just have that be the name of the business, or you could basically do the DBA for it as well. The Sunbit's website is really good because they do have startup resources, different legal forms, different regulations, and like I said, where you can create a fictitious name for the business. Also, obviously, all roads usually end up through the IRS. So I did also put information in there on IRS information from their website. They do have like tax forms, startup resources, how to get your EIN number. The EIN is important because you want to set up like a bank account, get a business loan, and also for filing taxes, you do need that EIN number. So that's important to like get started and wrap your head around that. And then I'm assuming all you guys are based here in South Florida and in Miami-Dade County. So if you are starting in the business in Miami-Dade County, they have a really great website that helps you launch the business. It covers like permitting, licensing requirements, different employer resources. So I did include that link up here as well. And in terms of Florida and Miami-Dade County, you need to get your local business tax receipt. You might also need to get a certificate of use from your different municipalities. So if you're in Coral Gables or City of Miami, those are things you want to look into as well by checking with the local municipality. For the county, the local business tax receipt is for 1 year, starts this month, starts October 1st, and it expires next September 30th. So if you're in a municipality, you're required to maintain both a city receipt and a county receipt. And you should display the local business tax receipt prominently in your food truck. So check the county's website and also your municipality's website for additional business information and requirements. I do put that up there because it expires on September 30th. So for a lot of businesses, sometimes it doesn't make sense to get it like in August, September. It does make sense to wait until October to get it and then basically renew it the following October. And then for a food truck in Florida, you will need a business license from the state of Florida. I did talk about the Department of Business and Professional Regulation, DBPR. You're going to need a license from the Hotel and Restaurants Division. Also from DBPR, you're going to need a certified food manager certification, food handler card. And under the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, they do have a separate section focused on mobile food unit and getting a permit from that. You will also need to get a sales tax registration from the Department of Revenue and a certificate of use, like we talked about, from Miami-Dade County. I did put that information here in the presentation, so you'll see the links a little later on. And then we already covered like local licenses such as local business tax receipt. In terms of some of the tips to consider, you're going to want to look at your food truck in terms of public property, private property. Private property is easier to access, but it's harder to find. So you're going to want to factor in, probably you might have to pay fees to the property owner if you're going to put your food truck there. So I know a number of commercial locations, they do allow food truck there after hours. So that is something that you'll want to talk not just to like who the business owner is, but who the property owner is, and ask if that might be an option they're considering. I know sometimes there are like some huge parking lots that the owner of the commercial space will allow food trucks to come in there, and it could end up being like 3 or 4 food trucks in a night or on a weekly basis. If you are doing public streets and public parks, there are more restrictions and regulations. So you do want to check with your municipality, with the county on those guidelines. It usually is better to coordinate with other food trucks, like when they do the food truck fiesta meetups. Like I mentioned, Tropical Park near my house has one every Friday. So you're basically kind of dovetailing with something that's already been organized. They've already run a lot of the traps. So you just need to get your individual information, but you don't have to get all the extra work that the organizer would set up. In terms of the different events for food trucks, you do have group food truck events where there's basically the upside is collective marketing, better conversion rate on customers. You could do it on your own. Just go park on a street corner, go park on, a particular place, provided you did get the access and permits and things like that ahead of time. That's pretty steady. You could build up those customer relationships and you could really make your mark on that part of town. And then events basically are a great way when they do have like a section cordoned off for food trucks. But we're in South Florida, so you do have South Florida weather to factor with, where you could win big because you're kind of piggybacking on the marketing for that event. So it could be win big or lose big on that. So kind of don't put all your eggs in one basket on an event, but you could test them out and see which ones are better events for you to go to. In terms of starting up a food truck, I did include a number of those key websites. The Miami-Dade County Mobile Sales and Food Service Requirements page. It does outline all those permits that you need to get and apply for and kind of what's required. I did include Thimble because they have a great section on Florida. Square also has one on Florida because it is Square. They also do emphasize the point of sale systems. That was something I didn't factor in or I didn't mention it as part of some of the other startup expenses, but you would need a point of sale system to basically conduct the sales with the customers. And then the restaurant HQ, actually, this website's super, super helpful, super detailed where they have like a whole section on just starting a food truck. Also put some more Florida specific pages. We talked about the Miami Food Truck Events page. Roaming Hunger has a Florida specific page. Um, the Mobile Food Establishments page from the Florida Department of Agriculture is listed there. And then I did put up the Florida Food Trucks section as well. So you're going to want to look up any of those type of communities, any of those type of associations, anywhere where you kind of have like food trucks that are organizing, sharing information, promoting, marketing. That's really good sections for you to be on top of. And then also for starting up the business, I did include like the SBA Business Launch Guide, the SunBiz Guide, Miami-Dade County's business website, the state of Florida business regulations, and then I did include some additional SBA learnings as well. And then I'll in there basically, guys, here's our contact information for BizGap. BizGap.Miami is our website. I did include all of our socials where we advertise additional events, where we basically do promote different programs and resources and things like that. And since I was maybe like a minute or two early, I also do want to do a shout out for the Santander Bank Cultivate Small Business Program. That is a program that's run in a number of cities where they are focused on early stage food entrepreneurs. Basically, food entrepreneurs less than $1 million in revenue. The program is recruits on an annual basis. It is like a 12-week program that's kind of like a mini MBA for food entrepreneurs. But the program is here in Miami, and we are recruiting year round. So if you do want additional information on that, contact Gabby, contact Jesus, contact the BizGap team, so we can send you information because we are basically taking registrations and interest for the program because it opens back up in March of next year. So we will be able to send you information. The cool thing about that program is that you get this really great curriculum and education, and you can get like a $10,000 grant from completing the program. So that it's something that helps you to grow your business even more. And so would definitely shout out the Santander Cultivate Small Business Program, and feel free to reach out to us on that if we can provide additional information. So with that, I'm gonna stop sharing. I will check the chat and see if we got any questions. So I do see, thanks to Gabby and thanks to Mateo. So I see they posted a lot of information in the chat. So one of you guys noted you're in West Palm Beach. that you have a food truck, but the business isn't operating. So I hope the information was helpful. Do see somebody asked about, can they download the PowerPoint or notes? I missed the part about the licenses and permits. We will send you a copy of the PDF of the presentation, so you'll get that afterwards. And then Gabby did note, thanks to Gabby for noting that it's being recorded. So we will upload this to our YouTube channel so that you can look up watch the webinar at your own time as well. So I don't see any other questions from you guys. Just really hope this information was helpful in terms of making the right decision on starting a food truck. There's really a lot of opportunities there. So just feel free to reach out to us if we can help you in any way. And thanks again for participating in the BizGap program. Take care.